So today I'm driving the 2017 Nissan Maxima. This is a mid-size sedan with about 300 horsepower, 3.5 liter V6 with gas mileage ranging from about 21 in the city all the way up to 30 on the highway. Though I bet you can get even better gas mileage if you drive just a little bit more like Grandma. This is the base model, just the Maxima, not the Maxima SV or any other variation, and the MSRP on this one is about $32,000. This car has done very well with the critics. It got a 5 out of 5 from Car and Driver and a 4.7 out of 5 from Edmunds, so I was pretty anxious to give it a spin. Let's jump inside and take a look at the interior. Nissan does consider this to be a luxury sedan, and I think because of that, they went all out in the interior. Things are very well proportioned. There's a lot of nice buttons and features scattered throughout the cabin, and overall I found it to be a very comfortable setting. There's a nice heads-up display that you can interact with the buttons on the steering wheel, and you get a pretty sizable center console with a very large touchscreen. And there are dedicated buttons for all the important features, so you don't have to dive too deep in the touchscreen to get where you need to go. The back seat is large with plenty of legroom. I honestly think you could probably get 3 full-size adults back here and they wouldn't be squeezed too tight. It's a cloth interior, not leather, but I think it looks and feels pretty nice. I was also happy to see that there are 2 air vents on the back of the center armrest for your passengers to use. Switch gears and talk about storage. I have 2 young kids, so the trunk space is pretty important to me. I need to be able to get the stroller back here along with a bunch of other odds and ends, and I think the Maxima has that. The wheel wells don't jut into the storage space too much, so you do get a lot of space back here. There's also some nice storage up front. This is directly underneath the center console, and it's a perfect space to store your cell phone. And it's perfect because there are 2 USB ports right here, along with an auxiliary port as well. The space under the center armrest is not huge, but it's pretty deep. I thought to test this out I'd take my venti Starbucks cup and just drop it right in here and see if I can close the lid. And it's pretty impressive that you can close this without really crushing the thing at all. So it's a pretty decent space. Up top there's also a really nice padded space to store your sunglasses. And then switching over to the passenger side, you also do get a fairly large glove box. The rental place left a bunch of garbage in here. But I think you can see that it's really deep and it goes back pretty far, which is nice because you can keep more than just your standard owner's manual and registration cards here. And jumping quickly into the back seat, you do get an armrest that folds down in the center with 2 cup holders and then a nice additional space that I think would be perfect for a cell phone. Speaking of cell phones, let's talk about tech because the Maxima has quite a bit of features. One of my favorite is the keyless entry. So as long as you have the key fob somewhere near the car, you can walk up, push a button on the handle, and open the car door without ever having to interact with the keys. Inside the vehicle, there's also a ton of other features that I really liked. One of my favorite is the heads-up display. This is the little screen that's right next to the speedometer and above the steering wheel. In most cars, this is a crappy black and white type screen, but not in the Maxima. It's full color and it has tons of useful information. This is an example. This is what you see when you're driving. So you get a compass, so you know what direction you're going. It also tells you what road you're on and the speed limit, along with the time, the temperature outside, and then how much further you can drive on your current gas. And then if you exit the vehicle or any of the doors are open, there's a really nice animation that sort of gives you a warning about what's going on with the vehicle. The center console in this car is also really nice. It's a very large touchscreen. But unlike a lot of the other cars out there, you also still get some dedicated buttons on the sides of the screen so that you can quickly jump to the menu choice that you want. The screen is very bright and it's super responsive to the touch, even in super cold weather. And I really like that the climate controls are not included in the touchscreen. That means that you don't have to do a deep dive through several sub-menus just to turn on heated seats or something like that. Overall, I think Nissan has really nailed this, and it's one of my favorite touchscreens of the sedans I've driven lately. And I should also mention that you also get a rear view camera, so when you throw the car in reverse, you get a very wide shot of what's behind you, and this is a super clear display, not grainy at all, and really easy to interact with. And then below the center console, you also get a push button start. And I really like where this is located. It's not where the key used to go, it's actually on its own dedicated place right by the gear shift. And then behind the gear shift, you get a dial where you can interact with the touchscreen, along with buttons to change the car from normal mode to sport mode. And then back up top, the rear view mirror has auto dimming features along with dedicated buttons to control your garage door with. So those are all the positive tech features. Let's switch gears just real briefly and talk about some of the negative. The cabin lights are these dinky little LEDs and they do not illuminate things at all at night. I found this extremely annoying and I don't see why they can't be just a little bit bigger. Another pseudo-negative is when you shift the car into park, the doors don't automatically unlock. I thought this was kind of strange because in all the other sedans I've ever driven, that's the case. Put the car in park, doors unlock for you. It's not a deal breaker, but I thought I'd mention it. There's also no blind sign detection on this car. It's something that I've really come to rely on and I kind of expected from a $30,000 luxury sedan. There's also a pedal parking brake, which again isn't a deal breaker, but I just want to mention that most of the other sedans in this price point have electronic parking controls. The Maxima also still has the old-fashioned twist-off fuel cap. It's not a deal breaker again, but I want to point out that the Chevy Malibu and the Ford Fusion have gotten rid of this feature, which is really nice when you're fueling up just to have to get rid of this extra annoying step, especially like in this case where the fuel cap is actually detached from the car. But enough negatives, let's switch gears and talk about comfort. I really like the climate controls on this car. They're super simple, everything has a dedicated button, and you also get a nice digital readout so you know exactly what temperature you're trying to adjust the car to. And when it comes to the front seats, you also get electronic controls for both the driver and the passenger side. There's no lumbar support on the base model. You can get that in the SV model, but there's plenty of ways to adjust these seats so that you're extra comfortable. I also want to point out that most of the other cars in this class do not have electronic controls for the passenger seat, so it's really nice to see that Nissan added this feature. Quickly jumping to the back seat, this is a very wide and long car, so I had plenty of leg room. I'm 6 feet tall, I pushed the front seat back quite a ways, and I still had at least 6 inches of room. And I think I mentioned this before, but there are also 2 vents back here for your passengers, which is really nice. Not a whole lot of storage space for them back here, but it's nice that they can control the temperature somewhat. But switching back to negative, the child seat anchors, the car seat anchors, they're super deep, and it's going to be a huge pain in the ass to connect any kind of seat back here. But let me stop being negative and switch gears and talk about something really positive, which is the handling of this car. I really like driving the Nissan Maxima. This is a pretty big sedan. It's very wide, so it feels really nice around the corners. You really feel like you're hugging the road, and I don't have any sort of sensation like the car might slip in any moment. And this is a V6, so it accelerates really nicely, and it's pretty fun to drive on the highway at higher speeds. I drove the Nissan Maxima SV, which is a more expensive version of this car, for about 2 days last week, and I wasn't blown away with it. I don't know why, maybe I was in a bad mood, or maybe it was a bad car. But I drove this car, the base model, for 3 days, and I probably put more than 1,000 miles on the car during that time. And I gotta say, this car won me over. I am really impressed with the Nissan Maxima. I see why Car and Driver love this car so much, and I see why Edmunds love this car so much. If you're in the market for a car like this, I really encourage you to go give this car a nice test drive. I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. Alright, so that's it. That is the 2017 Nissan Maxima. After 3 days with this car and almost 1,000 miles, I can confidently give this car 4 stars. Seriously, this is a really nice sedan. It's got a lot of nice features, especially with the tech, and I really think you should give it a try if you're in the market for a new sedan. Alright, that was my 23rd rental car. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll join me next time.